Hi, hello, Namaskar. What's up, everybody? This is Shubham Thakur here, and welcome to Shubham Thakur's Live presenting India's first continental panel discussion on mental health awareness. The COVID 19 pandemic is a major health crisis affecting several nations with over 45 million cases and 1.18 confirmed deaths reported till date. Although social activities have been restricted in most countries, almost all not essential individual movements were prohibited due to quarantine. While the local hospitals received suddenly thousands critically ill COVID 19 patients and were forced to implement their emergency protocols. In this context, the general population as well as most of the frontline health workers became vulnerable to the emotional impact of COVID 19 due to both the pandemic and its consequences worldwide. So, many psychological problems and important consequences in terms of mental health, including stress, anxiety, depression, frustration, uncertainty during COVID 19 outbreak, emerged progressively. Common psychological reaction related to the mass quarantine, which was imposed in order to attenuate the COVID 19 spread, are generalized fear and pervasive community anxiety, which are typically associated with disease outbreaks, and the increase with the acceleration of new cases together with inadequate anxiety provoking information which was provided by media. The psychological reaction of COVID-19 pandemic may vary from a panic behavior or a collective hysteria to perceived feeling of hopelessness and depression, which are associated with negative outcomes, including suicidal behavior. More importantly, other health measures may be compromised by abnormally elevated anxiety as the general population become increasingly exposed. Anxiety provoking topics related to the emergence of the health and the socio-economic crisis need to be rapidly identified to early detected dysfunctional process and maladaptive lifestyle changes, potentially leading to the onset of psychiatric condition. So today, in this panel discussion, we are having the panelists from every continent to analyze the mental health issue uh, and uh, and giving the solution for the same. So first of all, here I'm welcoming Ms. Mansukhani, founder and author of Grow Younger from India, Asia. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Shubham. Hi, everyone. Good
Yeah.
evening.
Now here we have Ms. Prissy Tasker, entrepreneur, CEO, publisher, and best-selling author, founder of the World is So Big Publishing and from United Kingdom, Europe. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now here we have Professor and Dr. Maria Carolina Lorello, a neurosurgeon and professor of Sao Paulo Catholic University from Brazil, South America. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi.
And now here we have Mr. Edwin Bochiadom, clinical psychologist of Korle Teaching School from Ghana, Africa. No, he isn't there. So we are moving forward to the Miss Jeanette Pearson, yoga and mindfulness coach, founder of Infinite Yoga and Wellness from Australia. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Now here we have again Mr. Karthik Madugula, psychologist, the Karma, the life coach from India, Asia. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Yay, everybody, welcome to this amazing show. I'm very, very excited about what's coming. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Yeah, and here we have, last but not the least, Miss Erica Shepherd, the founder and owner of Erica Shepherd Healing and Coaching from North Carolina, USA, so, North America. Welcome, Miss
Yes.
Erica.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. So as we know that COVID pandemic hits us very badly, so we are highlighting some of the major problems all around the world related to mental health. So here we are starting with Mala Mansukhani on social media impact on mental health. Here we have. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Mala Mansukhani, and I'm the author. And I run a group called Grow Younger. So I've written a book on Grow Younger, and I train seniors, because I think that's the need of an hour. Because especially now. I've been working for a very long time with seniors, and during this pandemic, it is so important for me to be in regular touch with the seniors, because they are the most people that they really need help at this time. Because with this pandemic, there's so much anxiety, fear, depression, stress, because actually the way it started, it hit really bad to everyone. And then nobody knew what's going to happen next. So, yes, this was really disaster for many of us.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, ma'am, would you like to elaborate about more this, about this? So, how it is affecting the students, that social media is a part of our daily life right now, and it is affecting our mental health, just especially in the pandemic and the lockdown. So, what do you think that how does it affected the children and the parents as well who are working from home? Yeah.
Well, I think, the children, it's affected more, both, I mean, for the children and the parent. But then I think, it's got so much into people's head that, you're so glued to social media, either whether it is a Netflix or this. But slowly and gradually, I think people are now coming out of it, and they are trying to find out various means of keeping themselves busy. But yes, it did affect a big time, because people were either glued to social media or TV, or sitting alone, stressed because there's nobody to communicate them. And I think the parents, equally went through this, but it's a parent's responsibility to give them, like a check on them, that they are not there for too long on social media, because
Yes.
it's so much draining down your energy, because if you're stuck all the time to this social media.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So, the social media impact, especially on the childrens, are there, and one of the major problem which occurred is that people are the young generation is really getting affected by the social media feeds, the post and the things which they see on the social media, and that relates to the violence in their mind. So, how to deal with that,
Yeah.
or how to remove that, in particularly in the age of 18 to 20? Yeah.
uh, Basically, if you try to help yourself, it's not very difficult. But yes, of course, the parents have to really dig into it and do it very nicely to find out how much time your child is glued to social media. You have to give
Yeah.
them little more activities, where they can do some creative work, because it's so draining down, so stressful, because you're constantly glued. Every 2 seconds you're just seeing what's happening, and people are getting depressed, because what outside world they see, everything is so perfect on social media,
Yes, ma'am.
and they try to compare, but what is happening in the closed doors, nobody knows about it. So it's very important to understand that you cannot compare yourself with others. You need to see your own capacity and try to be best in your own respected field, what you are. So I think this is very important, even for parents, to pay little attention and make your child understand. Because nowadays, when you go on social media, it's so much like glamour, everything is perfect. You can say there are so many ads coming that makes you look so younger, and everything so perfect, which really disturbs many people, because you're constantly comparing, whether it is your looks, or whether how many likes somebody is getting, or how much attention you are getting. So this is really affecting big time, so this is where the parents need to really look into it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that. And as you said that what as the parents told regarding the same. So
Yeah.
now I'm moving forward to Ms. Chrissy Tasker to speak about the good childhood report on how COVID have affected the kids' mental health. Yeah, Ms. Chrissy Tasker.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, let me just take this off. Okay, I'm a certified early childhood educator and I'm an ambassador speaker for the Children's Society in UK. So this finding that I'm going to show in a minute is actually the data statistics that is recently released by World Health Organizations and the Good Childhood Reports 2020. Okay, I'm going to share my screen right now.
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay. Is the screen okay?
Yeah.
Shobhan, yeah, is the screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so
Yes.
as of
Yeah. It is.
as of 26 October 2020, the latest reports for the pandemic is actually worldwide 42 million over cases of confirmed COVID-19 and over 1 over millions of death rates reported currently. And in India itself, the affected cases is 7.9 millions and reported of death rate is more than 100,000. So tragically, this crisis is universal. And for some children, unfortunately, the impact is going to be lifelong. So we have survey done online worldwide and found that 85.7% of parents reported changes in their children's emotional and behavior during this quarantine, such as withdrawal, depression, violence, problem to focus, anxiety, etc. But more alarming, the recent report in US, during this pandemic, 4.4 million children in US have developed anxiety. 1.9 million children in US have developed depression due to the consequences in the pandemic. We do not like to hear this, but the latest report from NHS, which is National Health Service in UK, on 22nd October, this is the latest release in the news. They have found that 1 in 6 children have developed mental disorder at the age 5 to 16. That is an increase of 16% because in 2017, it was 1 in 9. This is very alarming actually. And this statistic is based on both boys and girls. Now, in 2018, there's a paper published by the Health Economic, led by Professor Ezra Goldstein, Health Policy Research, based in University of Minnesota. Now, this report has shown that in the year, it's based on 2001 and 2013. They have found that during the Great Depression, a 5% point increase in national unemployment rate is correlated with an astounding 35% to 50% increase in children's childhood mental health problem. And right now, the latest statistics, our unemployment rate is 11%. I am really deeply concerned about the kids' mental health problem right now. Because when the economy is in bad place, kids' mental health get worse. This time it's going to be much worse because it's also a pandemic. Now, the area that affect the children are poverty, educations, child survival, nutrition, and protections. So there's an array of emotional factors that are going to affect them because of the deprivation, the isolation, the vulnerability, and all these withdrawal symptom, depression, anxiety is the result of the consequences of this whole pandemic. The NHS have just released the statistics of the survey done to parents, and they ask them to rate the children, how are they faring in this current situations. And most of the parents have rated that there's an increase in anxiety, such as they are afraid to leave the house, they're worried about missing schoolwork, and a lot of time it's also about social. It's about whether will they see their friends again, whether will they see their relative again. I mean, it saddened my heart, especially when it comes to coping with loneliness. The percentage have really went up. Children are feeling very lonely right now at this period of time. And especially girls are not coping as well as boys when it comes to loneliness. In the area of poverty, now in the area of poverty, approximately 150 million children are in poverty, but now it's added. Now at this period is added to it because of parents losing their job and unable to provide to the family. So, and deprivations of such will cause a long-term effect in the health of the child mental health. During this period, as we know, because of the social distancing, there's 188 countries have imposed worldwide or countrywide school closure. And this affects 1.6 billion children and youth. Now, the potential loss of learning for today's young generation, we do not know what is the impact going to be in the future. But don't forget, more than 2/3 of countries who introduced this national learning distance learning platform, it does not benefit a lot of low-income country because most of them already does not have access to digital learning. So this impact is going to be quite a long time actually. With the school closure, children are missing opportunities to develop also socializing with other children and have expressed missing their friends and felt lonely at the same time. Now, fortunately, this pandemic has spared children from mortality, but it does not spare children mentally. And additional to 1.2 million children worldwide, because of this disruption of pandemic, have no access to vaccinations. So there is a worst case scenario of predictions that there is a lot of children under age 5 is going to disappear because of not able to access to the vaccinations. Especially with the school closure, nutrition is really one of the big concerns. Because especially recently, if you were to see in UK news, because of the school closure, children are not able to access to nutrition food in school. Because there's a lot of poverty around, and basically the only meal that they can get is when they go to school. But with the school closure, a lot of children does not have access to nutrition food, and this is a big concern. So again, 132 million people is going hungry in 2020, and out of it, 36 million are children. But there's 370 million children that, because does not have access to school, they are deprived of the nutrition food that the school provide at the same time. With all these quarantine, parents are working from home. So we have Refuge is one of the biggest charity organizations that will help with abuse cases at home, and they have reported 700 cases, 700% increase in calls with the helplines in single day, because children are at home with the parents all the time, and they witness violence because of the cope up in parents, because of the stress of the anxiety of the parents that are facing. So all the more you can see anxiety and violence are showing up at home. So, but there is, because of these isolations, we have no access to children at this point of time. So it's really a big concern of getting to them as soon as possible if there is cases of abuse or violence. So as a community, we have to come together to solve this problem, to identify there is cases and there's children in needs out there that need us. WHO, the World Health Organization, have came up with pamphlets to help parents to cope with stress during this COVID-19. We have an email system that Shivan and myself have developed, and we would like to give it away if there's any audience who want to access to these pamphlets or to the access of the statistics by WHO or by Good Health Childhood Education's statistics. We are willing to give it out. You can just send us an email and we will forward you the statistics. Thank you so much for now. And we will answer more questions at the Q&A questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen ma'am. That was a very wonderful presentation about the mental health awareness regarding in COVID-19, and that was really lovely. So, so after moving forward to the to Professor Dr. Maria Carolina Lorello. So, ma'am, I would request you to say something about the public health principle and the neurological disorder in mental, because the nurses and the doctors and the police officer who are working in the COVID-19, and they are working fearlessly, and they are not even thinking about their families, so they have to live in their quarantine, and they have to be alone and have some preventive measures. So please kindly speak about that. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to thank Mr. Thakur and congratulate you for the excellent organization of this event. I would like to greet the other panelists. And each year, World Mental Health Day is observed on October 10th, meant to raise awareness, sensitivity, and action for mental health conditions. The issue of mental health and well-being has been exacerbated during the COVID crisis, and the origins and the triggers of mental health disorders can be so various. But to name only a few triggers, I can mention quarantine and its socioeconomic impact, biological and individual, but also collective vulnerability. Many individuals are facing unemployment, economic uncertainty, bereavement, isolation, and are working on the front line, which can contribute to a potential deterioration in mental health. But
yes,
I will show you something. Yeah. How can I say? A recent study from a medical journal, The Lancet, notes that the psychological impact of quarantine can be great, resulting in a range of mental health and concerns. Indeed, the students of quarantine patients of SARS, for example, a previous coronavirus outbreak in 2003, found between 10 to 30 suffered post-traumatic stress. But I will concentrate in a global health point of view, using this framework that link health with other sectors which impact health. For example, here you can see how India was impacted by this COVID-19 and
yes,
and mental health. And almost 200 million people had mental health disorders in India. And I use this framework to link global health and other sectors that can impact health issues as right to health, economic investment, impact, and public policy. For example, in the economic issues, we can consider austerity and lack of public investment. WHO was highlighted the chronic underfunding of mental health. Prior to the pandemic, countries were spending less of their national health budgets on mental health. India spends the equivalent of less than just 33 paisa per mental health patient for a year. The second point is the socioeconomic impact for families, corporations, and government. Pre-COVID estimates reveal that 1 trillion in economic productivity is lost annually for depression and anxiety. And it's no wonder that economic loss today in the economic caused by a mental health crisis is estimated by more than 1 trillion between 2012 and 2013. And 2019 study by the British Mental Health Research UK found that 42% of the employees in India's corporate sector suffer from depression or an anxiety disorder. But all this information is previous COVID-19. And we can consider also in the economic point of view, the advantage for the pharmaceutical industry. In contrast, the social and economic impact of out-of-pocket expenses by households on illness. And for example, in India, 2011, 17% of households were impacted by these out-of-pocket payments. Another point of view I would like to share with you is in the rights domain, in the human rights and right to health, we can consider the stigmatization of affected people, especially in the workplace. For example, in this study, previous from the COVID, it was found that 90% of people who stayed away from work due to stress did not mention stress as a reason for their absence. We can mention also the gender inequality, India's contribution to global suicide that's increased from 25% to 36% among women before the COVID. And the access to health services, we can consider the absence of an universal health coverage in some regions, the absence of access to medicines, and the absence of psychological support. Considering the public health, we can mention the risk factors or underlying conditions that impact also and are triggers for mental health disorders, such as alcohol and drugs abuse, sedentary lifestyle, unhealthy food, chronic stress, violence, sexual abuse increase the risk of these diseases. We can consider the lack of public policies for urban green spaces, the lack of water and sanitation, and this pandemic is increasing demand for other services and mental health services. And we can see also the impact of other diseases and the association between non-communicable diseases as neurological diseases and COVID, for example. The risk of stroke was more important with COVID population. We can see panic, insomnia, and more stroke and more pain, chronic pain and headaches in the patients that had COVID-19. And especially for health workers, I can mention that India has only 9,000 psychiatrists. It's one doctor for every 100,000 people. This is not enough. And it means that India has a shortage of 18,000 mental health doctors. The other thing I would like to tell you that's academic training especially in Brazil and in the Western world, we have an academic training for health workers without integrative medicine. And in this training, in these undergraduate schools, we hardly consider the social determinants of health. And we few take action. It's hard to consider the own mental health for health workers. It's very, very important in this time. And considering the Brazilian response, I can tell you that we have social determinants of health, but political determinants of health, and moral determinants of health. And it's very interesting to discuss these kind of things with you, and considering the economic austerity policies that will aggravate healthcare for other diseases, but also for COVID response. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and the issues you highlighted. That was really necessary. And in India, we had a mental health crisis in 2018. So right now we are moving and we are growing in terms of the mental health awareness. So yeah. So here I'm moving forward to Ms. Jeanette Peterson, the mindfulness yoga and mindfulness coach, founder of Infinite Yoga and Wellness. To explain and discuss about the managing mental health with yoga amid COVID-19.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. So I'm in Melbourne in Australia, and we are in the process of just starting to come out of our second significant lockdown. And so Australia is actually in a good position numerically from cases of COVID-19. But in saying that, we have an interesting situation here. So basically, because we have been able to financially support many people in Australia through all kinds of stimulus packages that have been created both by the federal government and by state governments, we're kind of artificially propping up our economy, which is a really interesting thing. So when we talk around mental health and awareness, that it's very, for me and for many, many people, it's very concerning about the climate that we're heading into. So these stimulus packages are starting to gradually be reduced and winding back. And we know that there's well over 1 million people in Australia that are being supported in some way by these stimulus packages. And there is lots of different ones for people in business, for people who have been employed. But as we start to see doors open, we can see that the economy is starting to move and starting to not return to normal, but what we would call the new normal. But I honestly believe that, and a lot of people believe this, and from the data that we're seeing all over the world, I think it's the same. We're not actually seeing the impacts of what this means yet. This is a long-term, the mental health issues that are coming from COVID-19 are a very long-term issue, and there's something that we're all going to have to very much pull together to create a better space, not just for children, but for adults and for everyone in our community. So I work with both children and adults. I'm actually a member of the largest female girl-led organisation in the world for children, which are girls between 6 and 17, which is Girl Guides. And I've done a lot of mindfulness programs during COVID with Girl Guides here in Australia. And they're feeling all the same things that everyone's talking about. They're feeling anxiety, depression, sadness, loneliness, being isolated and not understanding. And then having that coupled with schooling from home, parents working from home, it's really traumatic. But we're not seeing the outflow of that trauma yet. We're really just seeing the initial examples. Now, mindfulness and yoga has a huge capacity, but not as an independent thing. And I think moving forward, what we need to do is work in a holistic way. I think what COVID is bringing up for us all around the world is it's going to take every avenue and every angle of a holistic approach to mental health awareness to really bring this together, remove the stigma from people who are already suffering. We all know somebody who's suffering from mental health. And in fact, we don't even realize it because there are people in our immediate circle that are having mental health issues and they're concealing it through the stigma and through concern of how they're feeling and how they're going to appear in society. Now, something like a pandemic makes it impossible for you to conceal that because when you're at home, you're working from home, you've got 3 children at home, you're trying to homeschool children for all the way through to doing their final year in high school, and it's just too much strain. So we were already under strain in Australia because we're so dispersed throughout Australia. So because of the scale and the size of our country and how our population is dispersed, that there are children, adults in remote parts of Australia that really, even before COVID, struggle to get access to mental health support. And now put COVID on top of that, and it's just exacerbating the whole situation. But I honestly think there's hope. I think there's a silver lining in all of this, that COVID has really started to make us think about the things that are important in life. And yoga and mindfulness helps you to really delve into that, helps you to be more aware of what the world looks like around us, aware of how we're interacting with that world around us, and awareness of how we want to show up in that world. So I think that even though we have some huge challenges ahead of us around potentially what COVID's producing for us all, we also have, I feel excited about some wisdom that we've learned and that we've gained greater understanding about what we need to do collectively when it comes to humanity. So I might live in Australia and the rest of the panelists might live all over the world, but we belong to the human race. And that is the connecting factor of us all. We're just people of the universe, you know, people of the world. And we need to come together and collectively create solutions holistically across all fields. So not working independently. So I believe the best way that we're going to get great solutions moving forward for mental health for young people and for old people, for parents, for everyone, is by taking a holistic approach. So by counsellors, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, working with alternate practitioners, you know, people in all fields of wellness, because we all have so much value to offer and it's a big task ahead of us. And the only way that we're going to achieve success is if we agreed across the boundaries of what that looks like. And we very much separated it for a long time and worked very much in isolation and independence. And so at the moment, I'm working in tandem with lots of people in different spaces, working collectively to help get out information about how to flourish and how to survive in the world that we're facing ahead of us. But it's a world full of hope and opportunity, potential. The human race we've survived lots of things that have occurred. If you think about historically, there are millions and millions of people who've survived all kinds of atrocities, wars, famine, disease. It has come to society again and again, and it's a matter of us rising up collectively, supporting those that are struggling the most in every way that we possibly can, but collectively coming together as a community. And I teach people in yoga and mindfulness how to do that, how to feel connected. It is the most beautiful thing that you can do. I feel connected to the people that are in this space right now, yet we're in different parts of the world. I feel connected to the people that are struggling with abuse and struggling with not getting the food that they need because they're not at school in parts of the world. We're all connected. And to really make a change and move forward in this hopeful world that we can create, we need to feel that connection stronger than we ever have before. And it will happen. So I'm hopeful, even though the statistics say that it's tough. We've had tough statistics before. So my message to everyone is to say, you know, we've got this. We will move forward. We will survive. But we need to make sure that we pick up everybody on the way and we leave no one behind. And the United Nations doesn't give out much clearer statement about poverty, about health, about equality, about not leaving anyone behind. And this is what we can do collectively.
So, thank you so much, Jeanette, Ms. Jeanette, for this kind explanation. And you explains us the yoga and the importance of it. So, in this pandemic, we have the another aspect of which is the public health workers, the nurses, the doctors, the police officer, and there are so many who are doing this and managing this COVID and still making try to make a living in this world and to heal the world. So right now I'll request Mr. Edwin Bochi Yadom, clinical psychologist, Koldebu Teaching School, to discuss about the psychological issues of frontline personnel combating COVID-19. Yes, sir, Mr. Edwin. Mr. Edwin, are you able to hear me?
There must be some technical error. Yeah.
Mr. Edwin, you are on. Yeah. I think his mic isn't connected. So, Mr. Edwin, can you please check that?
It shows he's muted, I think. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Edwin. I think there are some technical issues regarding my mic and audio.
Maybe if you come back to Edwin,
Yeah.
you can continue on.
So, okay, then let's move forward. I think there is some technical issues with Mr. Edwin. So now we are having Mr. Karthik Madugula, psychologist, Karma the life coach, to discuss about the coronavirus anxiety and adolescents' mental health. Karthik, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Shubham. I'm very glad to be on this panel. I've been learning a lot from all the presenters today about their various perspectives regarding mental health of various ages and statistics and so on and so forth. So one thing that I'm going to do right now is I'm going to deliberately not get into the statistical part because that has pretty much been covered. But what I'm going to address more, okay, and also more importantly, I'm going to go into a little broader aspect of mental health rather than just the COVID-19 pandemic aspect of mental health. Okay, so where I want to go down to, especially, is the individual level. Okay, we have by now talked about systems, we have talked about policies, we have talked about various institutions supporting and plans and so on and so forth. Because we've already talked about all of that, I want to touch upon the individual aspect of mental health, how individuals are approaching and what needs to fundamentally shift world over so that we see a better horizon for mental health and mental health issues, and so on and so forth. So the one thing that I feel that is a problem at large in the entire planet, if I'm right about it, at least I know about the country that I am in, is mental health is not a priority at an individual level. It's not a priority. Let's be really realistic about it. It is not a priority, and so what happens is
Yes, sir.
where there has to be proactive work. So if I am landing in a space of mental illness, then I have walked from mental health into mental illness. I did not straight land up in mental illness. In majority cases, some cases there are birth defects and all, which I completely understand. But in majority cases, I have been well at some point in time, and slowly I walk towards mental illness, from mental health to mental illness. Now, there was no proactive action about it. There was no seeking out help when things were still okay, because in a majority people's minds, emotions are still not the number one priority. I have been reading the National Mental Health Survey of India 2016. Okay, and as I said, I'm not going to go into the statistical part, but I read this one statement which stuck with me really strong. There is no health without mental health. It's as simple as that. There is no health without mental health. You might be physically well, okay, but if your mental health is not in position, all the physical progress is not going to be useful in any way at all. Okay, now in some cases physical health is also dispensable, but mental health, I feel, is indispensable, which people do not realize at large. Mental health is the most indispensable thing, and that is why wherever I go, I keep talking about the fact that people should keep their emotions first. That is what I keep talking about, and I even make a cool signature move about it, and I keep saying emotions first. Okay, emotions first, to orchestrate that point into their minds and hearts. So this is at large the issue at an individual level, and there have been some statistics about how there is financial difficulties with mental health, how there is a need for financial aid, and so on and so forth. Now I'm going to probably say something that's going to come across as unpopular, and some people might even think that I'm idiotic, but I'm still going to go ahead and say what I want to say. People spend money on big fat weddings. People spend money on buying a car. People spend money on all these other things that are fancy show-offs. But are they spending money on the most important thing, which is their emotions, which is about taking care of their emotions? Are they investing their money in the right space and the right thing? And when they are mentally well, when they are mentally healthy, then they will be in a position to buy these cars, these big fat weddings, any which way, because they will be productive in their life. And if I have to go back to one of the most important statistic of National Mental Health Survey, the DALYs, which is the number of lost years of productivity, was the highest because of mental health issues. So you really want to be productive and make a lot of money in your life, you better start investing in mental health. It's not, first of all, the mindset that it is an expense should start moving away. It is an investment into the most important asset in your life, which is your emotions. Because everything that we do, everything that we move for how it makes us feel. We eat for how it makes us feel. We dress for how it makes us feel. Almost 80% of decisions in our life we take because of how it makes us feel. And have we taken care of our emotions? Have we given it the due priority? The answer is an undeniable no. That's the first point that I wanted to address. Now, how do we change this? How do we as mental health institutions, mental health counselors, mental health workers, and so on and so forth, how do we change this scenario? And again, I have probably an unpopular opinion, but what I feel is that we have to make mental health cool, like a swag to the mental health arena in people's lives. Okay, there has to be a swag, and there has to be a sense of coolness about mental health. Only then will people consider this as something that they definitely have to do in their life. Okay, I'm looking forward to a day when people will click pictures with their therapist and loud and proud upload it on Instagram and Facebook. Just like how they would upload a picture of their six-pack abs, which they have probably got in their gyms. Okay, people proudly post those pictures, but nobody ever posts a picture about the fact that they visited a therapist and now they are feeling rock star crazy. Nobody posts about that. Okay, so the first thing that needs to start changing fundamentally is we have to start making people feel world over that mental health is a cool thing. It's an in thing, it's a trend, it's a swag, and so on and so forth. And if we look historically, there are a lot of things about which perceptions have been changed. For example, Talking about sex and sex education was a taboo for a long time. Now talking about sex has become kind of a cool thing. Talking about menstruation itself was a taboo for a really long time, especially in a country like India. In majority parts, it's still a taboo. But at least in the urban metros, talking about menstruation has now become the norm. There are even some stand-up comedians talking about it and so on and so forth. So slowly these things, and even some cases where people embrace their bodies and post the pictures of their bodies however they are, loud and proud. Okay, so body shaming is being replaced with body acceptance in a lot of people, and that movement is also gaining momentum. Okay, now I think it's about time that mental health also starts becoming cool. I look forward to the day when people post pictures with their therapists online in a very very proud way, like they have done a really great thing today. Okay, only when it is made cool will it become the priority, because as we very well know, human beings do not prioritize the most important things. They prioritize the most coolest things. Okay, this is what over and over we have proven to ourselves. We will only prioritize the coolest things. And should we now frown upon the fact that people do not give priority to their emotions? I don't think we should frown upon the fact. I think we should start making mental health more cool, so that it becomes the most appealing thing, and so that more and more people proactively, not when they are already ill, but when they are still healthy, but they see that the the vehicle is going off the rocker, that's when they should immediately start taking some or the other action to make sure that they do not reach the end where they then have to do a lot of cleanup work. Okay, so this is what I feel in a major way about mental health. The time has come. Fitness industry has become cool. So many other industries which didn't even exist. Fitness trainers didn't exist. At least in India, they didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. Nobody knew what a fitness trainer was. Okay, now it's all the rage. And when I see that historical trend, I feel that a time is coming where mental health training will also become the cool thing. And I really, 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 really look forward to that day. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much sir, for this wonderful speech, a wonderful discussion. That yeah, we still prioritize the coolest thing in our life. So I think the day will come when mental health is the biggest and the coolest thing in India and all around the world. And as being a youngster, I will post that thing and I will promote the mental health. Yes, yeah. So now we are moving forward to Miss Erika Shepherd. Erika Shepherd, Healing and Coaching from North Carolina, USA. So as we know that in this pandemic, everybody cannot go to the doctor in because they have the anxiety, they have the coronavirus anxiety and some mental health issues. They can't discuss with people and they can't. They have to live in the quarantine. So I request Miss Erika Shepherd to discuss about the mental health and the self-care in COVID-19. Yes.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, hello from the United States. It's an
Yes,
honor
yes.
to be
Okay.
here. As you guys know very well, that this has turned a lot of people's lives upside down, and it's caused a lot of us, I feel, in my experience, to slow down and face ourselves. That the busyness of everyday life has been stopped so that you are forced to look deeper, and that's been hard for a lot of people. And with COVID-19, a lot of people, for them, it's come up this fear of the unknown and the fear of being out of control, because COVID it's so much is out of our control and so much is unknown. And a lot of us don't know how to cope with that. So taking care of ourselves physically and mentally during this time is extremely important. So I'll start with that I always use a mind, body, spirit approach. We are all composed of our minds, our bodies, and our souls, our spirit. And so we have to address every tenet, because if we don't, we're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And we have to go that. So body, here's my recommendation. No matter where you live in the world and who's tuning in here, you can move in any way that you see fit for 20 to 40 minutes a day. The American College of Cardiology's research found that if you move and get your heart rate up for 20 to 40 minutes a day, it reduces all sedentary risks. Like, that's not too hard. I think we can all do that. We don't have to go run a marathon to get some great benefits from physical health in that way. And I always say, do a physical activity that you enjoy, because that way you're going to keep doing it. Back here in the United States right now, skating is becoming popular again. People are buying skates and getting back to themselves in that way. So move your body for 20 to 40 minutes a day in what way you see fit. The other thing I recommend is taking a vitamin D3 supplement for your body. It helps boost immunity, and we could all use a good immune system right now. And it also helps with mental health. If you're having low vitamin D levels, that can actually affect anxiety and depression. So you want to make sure your vitamin D3 levels are optimal. Get out, get a little bit of sun, not too much, or take a vitamin D3 supplement. That's one way you can do that. But as far as mentally, going back to my body and spirit, emotions, I love the way Karthik said about emotions. We don't prioritize them. I consider myself an emotional health expert above all else. And there's a difference between emotional health and mental health. You can have decent mental health, but really poor emotional health. Again, mental health, it's such a broader umbrella, but emotional health is part of that. And it's really important right now that we take care of our emotional health to elevate our mental health. And so one of the ways that I recommend that is we have to make sure we are staying connected to each other. Like, we need connection. And so even though we can't necessarily see each other face to face right now, to at least be talking on Zoom, making sure you have a few points of contact with friends or family several times a week to keep yourself engaged in that way, because it's really easy to fall out and hermit yourself, especially if you're introverted. So to be sure to get out and connect yourself with people, and Zoom and whatever platform you use for that. Next is allowing, this one is really, people will hear this and they're like, I'm not so sure about this, but to allow yourself to feel all your emotions during this time, and always, but especially during this time, without judgment and minimizing them. A lot of people think, oh, I didn't lose my job, or I don't have COVID, or I don't know anybody who died, so I shouldn't feel this way. And to minimize our own emotions and our own experience is one of the worst things we can do for our overall health. All of your emotions are valid. And just because your situation might not look as bad as somebody else's doesn't mean your emotions are less valid, or your pain or your anxiety or your depression is less valid. So to be able to make space for yourself and your emotions, and be able to feel them without judgment or criticism, is really vital during this time, because research has shown the more we suppress our emotions, the stronger they become. I see emotions as energy bodies. And when we experience a situation, our body generates an emotion. And you can picture that as like an energy sphere within our body. And if you don't feel it and let it go, that builds up in your body. And you can think of these spheres just building up. And they create more anxiety, more stress. And then they just charge. And so if you're, like, for example, repressing anger, if the anger stays in your body, it's just going to become stronger over time and create, at some point, physical disease. In fact, there was a study by Harvard and the University of Rochester here in the United States, and people who bottle up their emotions, you guys, increase their risk of premature death by any cause, by 30%. And then on top of that, increase their risk of being diagnosed with cancer by 70%. 70%. If I told you any food caused that, you would be like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So why we tolerate repressing emotions is a very cultural stigmatization that we need to work through to get rid of. Like, that's how important our emotions are. So we've got to be able to create space for us to feel our emotions. And also, to help elevate our mental and emotional health, I really recommend reducing screen time. And I know some of you had mentioned social media before, but I recommend reducing all screen time, computers, TV. If you don't need to be on it, don't. And allow yourself to connect to things like nature, being outside where you can social distance, where you can get into hobbies. At least in the United States, we are so used to being busy all the time, constantly. But I know that's changing around the world, that more countries are obtaining that go, go, go lifestyle. And this has allowed us the opportunity to slow down, check ourselves, and see what's really important. I think a lot of us have been faced with the dilemma of, wait, what's really important to me? Where do I want to dedicate my time, my energy? And so to really pay attention to that. And to follow up, asking about self-care, what can we do for self-care during this time? This is one of my key points I'm always telling clients in my practice is spend time every day connecting to your joy, whatever brings you joy. And for all of us, that looks different. Okay, like for me, it might be playing with my cats and playing the piano. For some of you, it might be reading a good book or doing another hobby or activity. But connecting to your joy is one of is truly, in my belief, us fully connecting to ourselves and being in alignment with ourselves. And so you need to be able to nurture your joy and make space and time for that. Allow yourself to play. And doing things like meditating, to be quiet, to sit with yourself, also helps you detox those emotions and energies that don't serve you, and allowing space and time for you to connect to what's important so you can elevate the kinds of emotions that say that you're in alignment, like love, joy, fun, those kinds of things. So with that being said, it's really right now to spend time listening to your emotions. Don't judge them. Recognizing they're so important. They're telling you a story about you. There's no wrong emotion, you guys. There's no wrong emotion. They're all valid, and they're all telling you what you need to do for yourself. And so taking the time to listen to that and honor that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eureka Shepherd, for this wonderful discussion. And the things you suggested for the self-care is really appreciated. So now here we are having one of the coolest psychologists I ever met, Mr. Edwin Bochiyadom from Ghana, Africa. Mr. Edwin. Mr. Edwin, am I audible?
Well, I think he has still problem, maybe the mic or something.
Yes. Yes, my mind, yes.
Yeah. Mr. Edward, can you hear us?
I think it's to do with the quality of the internet connection. Probably there is not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
Because his image even looks like it's frozen. So
Yeah.
We might have to continue on.
Yeah, Shivam, you can continue, so we can see when he's back, he's hearing, he'll give us some signal and then we can get back to him.
Yeah, for sure, ma'am. So I'm moving forward to the panel discussion, and without hearing from Mr. Edwin. So first of all, I would like to ask question to Professor and Dr. Maria Carrera Lorello. Is that, ma'am, how can a single individual improve the health of populations in an equitable manner? Yeah.
I'd like to ask you all your point of view, your opinion, because I have the impression that there is a lack of acceptance in our globalized society.
Yes.
About psychosocial difficulties or illness. It seems that from a sociological point of view, we reproduce the same performance required by the liberal economic world, excellent results, strength, and so on. But in neurosciences and in neuroimaging studies, as performed by Richard, I don't remember the last name, the neuroimaging studies demonstrate that self-awareness, mindfulness, and the practice of kindness make us happier and more intelligent because it develops more the frontal side of the brain, especially that permits that we can think clearly. And I see in the practice of lifestyle medicine, patients are better when they are heard, when they are oriented to have better nutrition, and when they are oriented to have a physical activity adapted to their limitations. And they are better when they learn how to identify their emotions. I think we should consider this holistic point of view. As a neurosurgeon and neuroscientist, I can separate more body and spirit, body and mental issues. We can find solutions collectively and individually if we stay in the way of René Descartes, separating organs and systems, and without considering climate change, air pollution, food security, and all these emotional things that we discussed before.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I answer your question, but in my practical life, I can separate these things. We should put together. Yes, as Walter Cannon described in the last century, this body and mental together, because we have some of hormonal, endocrinological issues, that chemical issues that impacting the emotional structure of the brain. And we can separate these things from emotional to the stress that can impact endocrinological network and can impact our physical body. It can be more useful that self-knowledge and better healthy for all.
Yeah. So that was the thing, and as you said, so we are forwarding to the next question, which I'm going to ask Mr. Karthik sir, is that, so what are the could you please give us some suggestion if someone is talking about the suicide or mental health, because people who are still attached to these stigma issues. So could you please let us know why people are still hesitating to discuss this kind of problem?
Right. So when it comes to stigma in a major way, stigma is basically what we have not accepted about
Yeah.
ourselves. That's what is stigma. Okay, because for a long time talking about sex was a
Yeah.
stigma, menstruation was a stigma, and so on and so forth. Uh, so one thing that we all have to understand collectively is that there are certain biological and psychological processes that they are very natural to a human being. Okay, the moment
Yeah.
we realize that and accept them as a normal thing, okay, stigma as a collective social outcasting will start moving away from the larger ambit of this problem. So when it comes to suicide and mental health, especially among, if I look at the kind of people that I generally work with, which is the teenagers and millennials and so on and so forth, there is too much stigma to the point of
Yeah.
denial and non-acceptance of what they are going through in a major way. And all that is because they don't want to accept the natural psychological processes that happen in one's system, in one's life, and so on and so forth. What everyone collectively have to realize is, if I look at the historical progression of things, if I go back
Yes.
if I go back 2 or 3 generations perhaps, or maybe into 1950s or 1940s, 30s, okay, physical survival was itself a big issue. Like if you were having food on your plate consistently, you had a good life. That was the end of the game, okay, because that in itself was in a major way not satisfied, especially in a developing country like ours, okay. So a majority of issues were only
Yes.
surrounded by the physical issues, which is the survival, having food on the plate, and so on and so forth. But once physical stopped being the issue, where survival is being taken care of in a major way, which is a good news, by the way. Okay. Now the arena of mental issues start. Now you don't have to worry about food on your plate, because that's done deal. It's towards the side. Now there is an entire array of issues opening up, and the big shift is this: with physical, there is only 2 or 3 issues: hunger, disease, and some bodily deformities or whatever it is. So there is only couple of issues with physical. With mental, though, there is infinite issues. Like you can literally invent issues as you go, because mind is a field which does not know limitations. Mind is a field which does not know limitations at all. So the number of issues that you can have in your life suddenly are, far too many than, for example, what the older generations have faced. Okay, so people have to really come together and acknowledge this fact that
Yeah.
we, as a generation, are collectively not prepared to face these challenges, the speed of life that has come about. Okay, within the last 15 years, social media blew up into billions. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected that all of us would connect like this on,
Yeah.
on an internet platform. Nobody expected 15 years ago that these kind of things is possible. So things are changing at a rapid pace, the kind of pace which humanity is not used to. Our brains have still not evolved that faster, as much as our technologies are pacing up. So there is a need for real acceptance that we are not prepared to face what we are already into. That is the first thing that has to come about. And
Yes.
then is when I think there will be a wider acceptance of the fact that it is okay to talk about mental health and suicidal issues, because by the nature of technology, by the nature of the pace of change, we are at a disadvantage in terms of being able to cope. So that's something that has to go into wider acceptance all over the world, is what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we talk about the suicide, the suicide is the part of the mental health issue. So like right now we are living the digital era, and we are having the social media. So as in 70s, 80s, 90s, the people were still addicted to something, So I would request Ms. Mala Mansukhani to tell how it's like to be in 70s, 80s, and 90s, and how it is different today. And one of the major issues, a major thing which is really common among the suicide or the mental health issues, that is self-esteem. So I request Ms. Mala Mansukhani to please let us know how it is like to be in 70s, 80s, and 90s, and how it is like to be now in terms of self-esteem. That people are still losing their self-esteem just because of the social media, or is it in that previous generation? Yeah.
Well, I think, actually, I've just been into social media, it's not been very long. So for us, social media was completely new. And I remember just a couple of years ago, I have started, and before that, it
Yeah.
was nothing like that. So the times have changed. Of course, there is a negative and positive to everything. So in our times, people used to do practically go and meet friends and understand the emotions, give that me time, go and spend time with nature, go on a holiday. Of course, do people do now, but still,
Yeah.
there is so much. Well, there are plus point and minus point about social media, because you just can't completely blame the social media. So you just have to have that balance.
Yes.
And moreover, you have to accept what you are. The problem with social media now, it is, we are, as somebody else also said, that we are in denial. We don't accept. If there's something wrong with you, come out in open and talk. People do not. In our times, I remember when somebody's not well or you're feeling low, we used to talk, because if you go during those times, the rate of suicide was hardly any. Nowadays we see the teenagers, the rate of suicidal is so high. you know so this is very important to understand, that we need to do something about it. And I feel, first of all, accept the way you are, introspect yourself every day. Meditation, all these things really help connecting with yourself. Give that me time, and understand your emotions and other people's. Like, as somebody said, I have this tattoo, speak up. I encourage my senior groups where I do training for them to speak up whatever they have. We don't talk because we feel, what if I talk and somebody makes fun out of it? So just accept it's okay.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to understand. If you keep bottling yourself up with all these emotions and everything, definitely, you're going to reach to a point where you're not going to understand. So it's very important to connect with yourself, introspect, give, plan it out, like X amount of time on social media. Our life was very different in those days. We used to practically enjoy being together. Of course, with pandemic, you can't do that much, but listening to the music,
Yeah.
drawing, mandanas, these all really play a good effect on your body. So you should start doing certain things. I encourage people to do some kind of artwork, because that really helps a lot, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And of course, the workout, as my friend said, that the heart rate, it should keep going up. So it's very important.
Yes, ma'am. So that it was so amazing back in 90s and 80s. So as we see some of the movies and the regular stuff, that skating was so common, and the dress codes and the bands and the music, everything was so different and amazing. So yeah, we are right now, as we are in the pandemic, we have to live differently, and I hope we can make the best out of it. So sorry for the interruption, but I'm trying to get Mr. Edwin here. and yeah, I think there are some technical issues still, but he's trying to get on board. So yeah, please just hold on for a sec.
Shubham, I think there is still
So
problem
he
with his
is
network.
replying. Yeah, it's just because of the poor network, ma'am, and he's trying to get on board. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there he is.
Hello, Mr. Edwin. Are we audible?
Please tell yes if you are audible. We are really all waiting.
For the moment. Now to manage yes, I hear you very well.
Yes, sir.
Am I good to go? Do you hear me very well?
Oh yes, yes.
Yay!
Yay.
Yes, sir. Now, yay!
Okay.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, welcome. Finally, we're here.
Okay. So it's I'm to that the dimension of impact community on as health workers. Maybe that I ask you, I mean, health workers also in three dimensions. Maybe. So I think I have
Shubham, we can't hear his voice is
Outside.
breaking.
so we have to do with smart
Yes, ma'am.
assets.
Let me please speak. Otherwise,
Office.
I have to remove it.
So just good.
The
So
fun
we are
of
not able to hear
technology.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we love it and we hate it all at the same time.
So it's all because of just the poor network. So I think that we are so glad to have you here on board, and I think you may continue if everything goes right. Otherwise, you can leave. Thank you. So sorry for the interruption. I think this is all because of the poor network. So let's.
If he comes back on,
Yeah,
ask
network
him to
controls,
put the video off.
So
that
moving forward to the next question.
Shubham, you can ask him to log out and then
Yeah.
log in.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I told him I told him several
Yeah.
times, but So, ma'am, we can't do with the,
Yeah,
we
but
can't do
I
anything
think
if
there's
the
a
network is
network
poor.
problem from his
So
side.
yeah,
So
so
we can continue, till he comes back again.
yeah. So my next question is to Ms. Jeanette Peterson is that what mental health issues can be supported through practicing yoga? As you know, that yoga is the connecting is the way to connect to God, as you say. So kindly answer me that question. Yeah, thank you.
So when it comes to anything relating to your mental health, yoga and all forms of yoga and mindfulness are beneficial, because the whole concept of yoga is about living our best life, right? So it's about connecting through, and what I usually tend to say with my clients is there's two kind of avenues that we connect. We have this experience with the external world, and social media is a big focal point for our external world, as lots of people are talking about. So we connect to that external world in four ways, right? We connect through our mind, we connect through our body, we connect through our emotions, and we connect energetically. Now, if we're only connecting in one way, we're just basically applying a band-aid to one part. We need to connect externally in all four ways. Now, yoga does this great thing. It allows you to be able to see the world with more clarity and to understand and absorb in a greater degree of awareness what's going on in the world around you. And then you can see how you're interacting with the world around you, and you can make adjustments and amendments to how you want to be seen and heard within that space. But the beauty really happens is when you go inside. So when you have that time, that space, that quiet, that peace, and this pause is basically, the pandemic has been a pause. We've literally hit the pause button on the universe and we've all stopped. And this is an opportunity to go in and really understand and get some clarity about who we are, because we really, to this point, because of the huge development of technology, and we're only at the bottom edge of technology development, it is soaring and it's moving ahead so fast that we are going to struggle constantly to keep up with it. But you won't struggle to keep up with it if you gain an understanding of who you are with clarity and purpose. And by going in, you really are able to develop and clearly understand and articulate what that means for you. And then what it means is you get to show up in the world authentically. This is our biggest problem that we're facing now, is authenticity. We are so busy trying to be the person that society, culture, religion, and all these other external factors are telling us how we should be, instead of going inside and understanding who we are and what our purpose is in our life. When we do this, we show up in every space of life purposefully and understand completely and clearly what we need to be doing in life. And then that affects everything. So it affects the way we interact with people. It affects how much time we want to spend on social media, because we feel really solid about who we are and we understand what that means. And so we want to nurture what that looks like. And with my clients, when I see clients the very first time that they connect with themselves, with that real authentic person that they were always meant to be, there's a sparkle that comes into their eye. It's like a light has come on and they've seen it and they've touched it. And we've all done it, because when you've had that moment in your life where you might have gone to a meeting or you're at school and you did something and it was easy, it just flowed effortlessly. The words that you needed to speak just came out. You didn't have to sit and rehearse them and think about them. That is the flow of your authenticity when it meets your purpose. And when we get there to that is when the magic happens. Because if we all showed up in the world authentically as we were meant to be, we wouldn't have these problems. It's because we're constantly trying to be what everybody else is telling us we should be, instead of just being you. Yoga helps You show up in the world as you. When you do that, you can understand all the issues that potentially rise, and you see them early. So when you start to have issues around anxiety, like some people have mentioned earlier, you get to see them before they become a huge problem. So your awareness is, oh, I don't feel really good about this. Why is this rising in me? What does this mean? And you can analyze it. So yoga can help you, whether it's with depression, whether it's with anxiety, whether it's with stress, whether it's with bottling up and holding emotional tension, whether it's with social conditioning, cultural conditioning, hang-ups that you've held from when you were a child, when you were told that you were terrible at something, and as a grown adult we still think we're terrible at that because we haven't readdressed it as an adult. Yoga can help all those elements because it's about living your best life and about helping other people to live their best life as well. When we're doing that, we create a better world, we create a better space for us, a better space for the people around us, and a better world collectively. And that's how we solve all our problems that come to us. So authenticity is the key. Be you. Go in and find you. And then we're on the right path.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was the really good answer. And as kids are not going to school and schools are closed and parents are working from home, so I would request Ms. Chrissy Tasker to answer my question. Is that what can parents do to help and manage children's anxiety during COVID-19 pandemic, especially when they are working from home? Yeah.
Now, first, I'm so grateful that I have so many takeaways today. Hearing from Jeanette, hearing from Erica, Mala, Maria, and Kama, I have so many takeaways, that is truly an amazing community work that everybody come together. Before that, I was presenting all these dark statistics. It's not to inflict fear, but like what Jeanette has said, we have gone through so many of this pandemic in human history. Human spirit are not breakable. This is not going to be the last time we experience a pandemic. It will never be the last time in human history. It will come in many forms. But there again, be reminded, human spirit are not breakable. If we come together, at this period of time, you may see your kids experience anxiety, but first, probably you will have to check, like what Erica has said, self-care, self-love.
Yeah.
Make sure as parents, you take care of yourself first. Because if you can only do that, you can only help your kids with their emotion if you exercise self-love and self-care on yourself. So in fact, the most important is to practice self-love. Take it easy, but knowing that at this period of time, because predictability is the stabilizing force for children, you have to set a routine for the child. Set a routine that they could follow instead of, because of pandemic, you let loose of everything. Because the kids need to know what is the routine, what is coming, and what is expecting of them. But of course, in the because parents have to cope with job loss, have to cope with dealing, like homeschooling kids. So while you're setting the routine, do have include flexibility, so that when the times is not right, or when you have some idealistic of certain routine and it does not work, it's okay to change course because we are in this trying time. So don't be so hard on yourself if things are not on course. Like we have 3 kids. In fact, I have 2 kids with a dog. They are all in bed every night. I could have screamed at them and tell them, get off the bed because it's dirty. But then again, when I reflect again and I slow down, what is more important? Because the kids' happiness is more important. And we are so glad because at this period, during the one day before the lockdown, we actually adopted a dog. And this dog saved our sanity truly. Because it enables the kids to express their unconditional love. And animals have taught us so much about unconditional at this time. So we are really thankful for things that we have never expected. So when every night the kids are in the bed with the dog, we're like, okay, we'll close one eyes for now. But because the most important thing is the kids can keep their happiness in whatever way they can now, because they are creating whatever things that's out of nothing to find their own happiness. And as a parent, you have to protect them for that. So at this point of time, I also urge parents to listen to their kids, listen to them, talk to them, communicate with them, because children of different age, they express differently, but there is telltale signs of kids being anxiety, like develop anxiety or depression. But if you were to listen to them, because in normal time, we are so busy. We are so busy with our work. We are so busy with so many other things, and we forget to listen. So you do need to constantly check in with your kids, talk to them, and understand what is their understanding of this pandemic. What do they interpret? And do not wait till they get all this false information from the social media, because then they form the wrong myth that's in their head. So as parents, you need to talk to them and bust the myth that it's not right. And if you were to, there is a telltale sign of kids being anxious when they actually ask the questions repeatedly. So a lot of time they may ask, when am I going back to school? If you hear them repeating that same questions, you know they have this concern that is deep in them. So as parents, listen to that and listen to the telltale sign. So like what Jeanette has said, teaching them to cope with the skill. So yoga, meditations, it's not just an adult thing. We can impart that to the children. Things adults learn to cope for anxiety, for stress. This is the time that we can teach the kids too. We know from some of my friends actually taught the kids how to do Pilates, which is brilliant. And I think like what Jeanette said, yoga, meditation is really, in normal time, it really benefit us. So what about this time? Maybe as parents, you should include that into our life right now, because that will benefit them. Focus on positive now, because with so many bad news going around, but hope is stronger than fear. Impart that to your children. Impart hope instead of impart fear. With all these statistics, in fact, most of the time, I don't even turn on TV now. But what we do is we do family activities, because that is where we communicate. That is where we have fun. And for the longest time, Uno become our favorite family games because it replaced because I think the kids are on screen all the time. During the lockdown, they have so much screen time now. And now we have to impose like control time on screen, and we have to impose no technology zone, like in the bedroom, no technology zone, on the dining table, no technology zone, so that the communications can continue, so that the family can come together and talk and play games instead of like staring at the screen all the time. So maybe this is a good time to revamp your family life, which other time you do not have the opportunity. Take this opportunity to revamp your family life and come together stronger. This COVID can make us stronger or break us. So you decide and choose the cause. Practice self-love, like what Erica said. Focus, connect to your joy. What a brilliant idea. Connect to your joy. Have we forgotten about that? We remember to connect to Wi-Fi, but we forget to connect to joy. How about that? So that is such a brilliant. And my takeaway, I treasure this. Connect to joy, connect to nature, because that is what keeps us in our sanity. So I hope everyone well and continue to connect to each other. Thank you. Thank you, Shubham. Back to you.
Shubham, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was a really wonderful answer. And Mr. Edwin, can you hear us? Hello, Mr. Edwin.
I think still the network
He
from his
dropped
end.
out.
Yeah.
Poor
Okay.
Ed.
Yeah. Okay, so don't worry. Let's move forward to the panel discussion. It is still going to be more interactive and more interesting. So, Miss Erica, that
Yes.
you talk about the mental health and the self-care in COVID-19. So, in the pandemic, that it is really necessary to take care of yourself, whether you are a grown adult, maybe in 18, 19, 20, or maybe the 30s, in 30s. So, I would like to ask that. So, what should we do to make ourselves healthy, physically as well as mentally? Because everybody is sitting at their home. Everybody is doing work from their home, and still kids are not going to the schools, and they are not socializing. That nobody is socializing right now. So, what should we do to be fit and healthy mentally as well as physically? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And sorry, I kept bumping on and off. I just recently stole my boyfriend's phone, so I have a better connection, and hopefully will not get kicked off now. So it's testing my mental health right now. This connectivity issue. So
Yeah.
I'm back and I'm okay.
Yeah.
So with that, I apologize because I answered some of those
Yeah.
questions earlier, Shubham. I didn't. I recognized. Oh, those were for after. But I'll highlight that moving for at least 20 to 40 minutes a day, like I was saying, for physical health is very, very important. But I would also emphasize to take that one step further, to do what you can, social distancing outside, like we were saying, in nature. There's a lot of studies about what nature can do for us, and it's just like this big mysterious relationship we have with nature, that it works for us and with us. I will do grounding for 10 minutes a day. So you walk barefoot, granted, as long as it's clean and there's not stuff everywhere, but you can walk barefoot outside, and it shows to enhance our
Yeah.
detox pathways to walk outside barefoot. So to do that for 10 minutes a day. And then also, so the mentally part, so those are some physical things. Mentally, I do what I call every day emotional time ins. So instead of timeouts, time ins, where you spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day going inward with yourself and checking, how did I feel today? You can do this with your
Yeah.
family. This is a great family exercise. Like, not what did you do today? How did you feel today? Although what we did is important, but how did you feel today? How did you experience today? Because I believe our emotions are the voices of our souls. Okay. And there is nothing more vulnerable and more intimate than to share our emotions. Okay. So to be able to create comfortable language around that. And you can do that with yourself. You can do that through journaling. I think journaling is very underrated. We can do a lot and come into a lot of realizations for ourselves with journaling. And especially if we're uncomfortable being that vulnerable with other people at first, is in terms of how we feel mentally, emotionally, then journaling is a great place to start. And even now they have apps on the phone and everything you can journal on if you don't have pen and paper to even do that.
Yeah.
And then slowing down at those emotional time ins. I also do meditating every day, where a lot of visualization meditations, I think stillness meditations are great too, but visualization meditations where you picture like you picture cleaning out your space, right? Like visualizing what's in my space. Are these energies and things that serve me, or is there a lot of junk in that space that I'm letting in, and like clearing that out? So there's a lot to be done around just taking those time ins every day to make sure we're elevating ourselves mentally and emotionally in the highest way.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that answer. And right now, that the thing which we are doing, this panel discussion, this whole thing, it's all because for the people who are suffering from mental health issues. And here in India, as I said, that there are no such kind of awareness comparatively to other countries about mental health. So here we have some questions from audience regarding the same. So I'm going to ask Ms. Mala Mansukhani that one person asks that how do we know that we are experiencing what we are experiencing in the anxiety attack?
Um, when you feel that, people now, they really feel that they should do everything shortcut way, or they don't have patience.
Yeah.
You have to really understand, take your time. If you're impatient about everything, that's one sign, and when you even
Yes.
snap out and you do want to do snap to people, so you know that something is not right with you. So you understand, and moreover, you feel that generally you are not like this. When you get that anxiety, there is a shift in your behavior. So when you actually try to just shut your eyes and realize, like I said, introspection is very important. So when you try to do that, you will feel that, there is something not right going with me. Because if you are staying in discipline, you do your yoga, introspection, you understand, give that me time, you will straight away figure it out that this is not you. So I think this is one of the signs that you will
Yeah.
figure it
Yes,
out
ma'am.
very quickly.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I hope he finds his answer. So here I'm asking the next question. It is from Mr. Vipin Jadhav. So I request Dr. Maria to answer this question. Is that he asks what to do if a problem is very critical, that people are having various kind of neurological disorder as well as some mental health issues like OCD, and there are some others. So people are still hesitating to discuss these kind of problem to their elders, to their parents, or with friends as well. So what to do if a situation is getting very critical? Yeah, Dr. Maria, ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
She looks like she might have frozen screen. Maybe she's having connection issues.
I actually can see her moving. So, Dr. Maria, can you unmute yourself? Can you please unmute yourself, Dr. Maria?
Yeah, she's here.
She's not able to hear us.
Dr. Maria,
I couldn't hear you. It was freeze. It was completely.
yeah.
Can you repeat, please?
Okay, so should I ask the question again? Yeah, yeah. So here's the question that he asks is what to do if the problem is very critical, because people are still hesitating to discuss the mental health issue and some of the neurological disorders with their parents and their friends and their peers. So what to do if the situation is getting really, really critical? Yes.
Sorry, Suban, it was completely cut. Can you, I don't know, write your question?
Yeah,
Because
I can.
it's completely interrupted.
Yeah, so I'm repeating the question again. As what to do if someone is having the mental health problem or neurological some disorder, and their situation critical because they are not able to discuss their problem with their parents and their friends. So what to do, ma'am, if the situation is getting really critical?
It's something like critical cases and critical cases of mental health disorders in my institution. The particular,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
in particular in Brazil, we have a state-founded health system with a very important capillarity. But we had 2 years ago, how can I say, underfunding political decision that blocked more than $20 billion to this public health system. And this is an obstacle to take care of the patients. Also, we had some 3 or 4 years ago, how can I say, we are reducing the number of beds in the psychiatric hospitals and putting all beds in general hospitals to avoid the patients with mental health disorders stay isolated from the society and stay there for all long and 4 years. But it's not enough, and the problem is that general health workers can't work always with mental health disorders because they didn't receive a special training, and for example, nurses and all the people. Here we have a lot of medical schools, private and public ones. We have a lot of medical doctors, but is still not enough, especially for psychiatric specialization. And in these public hospitals, we have emergency, we have medicines, but I see in the public sector a lot of difficulties to put all these things that we discuss, a holistic response together, because we have medicines, we have bed in the hospitals, but sometimes we don't have a psychological support, we don't have a family support, and this is a limiting issue. And the opposite side, we have a private sector that we have all these things, mindfulness, acupuncture, and integrative medicine and holistic response. It's completely different. It depends from the race, the ethnic, and the social origin of the people in Brazil. We have a lot of inequities and inequities in health also. It depends if we are in the private or in the public sector. In the public sector, we will have the emergency, we will have the medicines, but I'd like to say that even though we have a political, a very good distribution of medicines in Brazil and medications in Brazil, especially for mental health disorders, we have a frequent recurrence of the disease because we don't take care of the holistic patient. You know, if we don't have psychological support, if we don't have
Yes.
integrative medicine, the recurrence will be more and more frequent, and the medicines are not enough.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this answer. So now I would like to request Ms. Erica to answer this question. As that how one's relationship affects while going through such mental health issues experiences. Mr. Rika, kindly unmute yourself.
Oh, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you. So how does one's relationship affect their mental health? That's what you're asking?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Well, I could talk for an hour about this, but I will try to condense this into very short. That our relationships and who we decide to let into our lives is absolutely foundational to our mental health, because the health of our relationships really is foundational to how we're doing in our well-being mentally and emotionally. If you're in a relationship that is toxic, okay, that where your needs aren't being met, where your emotions, there's not space made for your emotions, where you're not receiving love, nurturance, support, or like, Jeanette said, where you can't be authentically you. We so have a need to be authentically who we are. And so we want to be able to welcome relationships into our lives, whether it's friends, our partner, spouse, intimate relationships, family, that elevate us. And especially during this time, we need each other more than ever. And so I'm really inviting for whoever's watching today to pay attention to the kind of relationships you have, asking yourself, does this relationship lift me up or does it bring me down? Okay, because relationships do one of two things. They lift you up or they bring you down, or they don't do much of anything. And so what kinds of relationships are in your life? And I want people to be able to say, oh, my relationships in my life, they all lift me up. When you're in relationships where you can be seen by the other person, heard by the other person, understood by the other person, and then truly accepted and loved for who you are by the other person, that is so critically important. I would say in my practice, I see people all over the world because I have an international practice. And one of the most important things we address are our relationships, because so much of their mental and emotional imbalance and how they feel has to do with being in relationships that don't serve them. It has to do with being in relationships that don't serve them. So we absolutely have to pay attention to the health of the people we're letting into our lives. And if there's one thing that you can do to elevate your mental and emotional health, it's getting into healthy relationships where you can be authentically yourself, where you can truly express your emotions and feel and just exist. And you don't have to constantly be trying to suppress parts of yourself or make yourself small to fit in. One of the worst things we can do is fit in. So to really pay attention to your relationships always, but especially during this time when we really need each other more than ever.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So here I'm asking the next question to Mr. Karthik Madhugura is that what is the one person asked that what is the best ways to improve mental health, as you said that mental health is going to be cool in future, and and he also asked that our medicine and the therapy are better for mental health, or we should do it by yeah.
Very good question. Very, very good question. So, how do we improve our mental health? And the second thing being, is medicine and allopathy better, or is there alternative ways which we should take up, which we should prioritize? So the first thing is, I want to answer the question of the medicine.
Yeah.
Now, in some cases with mental health, there is no way you can avoid the medicine. You do need the medicine because your issue is now related to brain chemicals, which is your neurotransmitters and so on and so forth. Dr. Maria would know a lot better. So in some cases, there is no chance at all you can avoid medication. And a blind layman's rule to understand when you need medications is to recognize whether your symptoms are too uncontrollable. If your symptoms with whatever mental health issue you're facing, whether it be anxiety or depression or so on and so forth, are too uncontrollable to the extent of there is no amount of talking that can help you, there is no amount of breathing, or there is no amount of exercising that can help you, then you do have to understand that there is no other way but medication. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is if you have not reached a position where your symptoms are so significant that there is no other way than medication, then it is better to heal it with things like cognitive behavioral therapy or naturotherapy, or there is various other kinds of therapy. There is even aromatherapy. Yoga is also one form of therapy, and so on and so forth. Okay. So I always keep telling this to people: always try human will before a pill. Okay, always try human will before a pill. But if you do get to the stage where you do need a pill, do not stigmatize it for yourself. Do not. When you do need a pill, just accept. Just like how we accept that we need food every day. Food is also a physical substance which you are taking all through your life without any complaints. So why then do you make a big complaint about a pill? Please do not do that. Whatever you need, you need. Accept it. There is no taboo about it. Whatever you need, you need. So that's about the pill versus the will, and whether you should consider a pill or whether you should consider alternative therapy. Now, how to make sure that you feel a positive mental health throughout your life? Okay, I will reorchestrate the point about your emotions, because your emotions are one of the biggest cues to whether you are doing well or not. Okay. There are various other things. You can look at your behavior, you can look at the way you're thinking, and so on and so forth. But by far, I think emotions are the strongest cues to recognize and realize whether you're doing well or not, because this has a lot to do with the limbic brain system, which is one of the strongest of your brain systems out there. So if you take care of your emotions, and if you can very clearly demarcate and journal, as Erika was also saying, if you can journal and very clearly demarcate what you're feeling bad about, and get keep striving to get to a state where not a lot can really affect you, then is when you are walking in the right direction. And I keep telling this to people: life is a series of challenges increasing in difficulty. Okay, let us say you have faced one layer of challenges, one kind of challenges, and you've gotten better with it. And now, if the same kind of challenge comes, you feel fine, you feel okay, and you deal with it well. Now you are ready for the next level of difficulty. Okay, and they keep coming till the point where almost nothing hurts you in a major way. And I also tell this to people: it's okay to feel bad, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to feel jealousy, and so on and so forth. It's okay to feel all these emotions. But what is not okay is to get stuck in these emotions. Feel bad for 1 hour, feel angry for half an hour, feel sad for 2 hours maybe. But don't stay stuck feeling bad for 10 days. Don't stay stuck feeling angry for 10 years. Some people that I meet, they're angry with some of their family members, and for something that happened 10, 15 years ago. And when I ask them what happened, majority of people don't even remember what happened. So what's the point of holding on to an emotion when you can just release it where it belongs? So what you want to look for is, whenever a bad emotion happens inside you, what is your rebound time? How fast are you able to release it? So that has to become sort of a metric for everyone to measure themselves. And I myself have measured myself in a big way. When I started, I used to feel moody for a month. Okay. And then I slowly started tracking that metric, and then I got it down to a week. And now my personal best is, whatever emotion, bad emotion that I feel, I process it off within half an hour. So what is your rebound time? That's one thing that I want everyone to do. And if you start measuring it, and if you start calculating it and being conscious about it, then you will accelerate your path of being in the space of emotional and mental health. That's forever, by the way. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So the next question I'm going to ask Ms. Jeanette Peterson is that what you do when we are experiencing experienced a week or longer than the usual interest activities that we usually enjoy, and we are not doing it. So what to do in this kind of thing? Yeah.
So what to do when you're in the circumstances where you can't do the activities that you normally like to do? Is that what you said?
Which you really enjoy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there are lots of activities that you enjoy. Sometimes at one particular point in your life, there's something that you're quite attached to. And it suddenly, if you can't do it, then you think that all is lost. But often that's just a form of attachment. Okay, and so in yoga, we talk very typically about attachment, and we become attached to lots of things. We become attached to material possessions. We become attached to habits. That's why they call them habits, because it's an attachment to it. And it's about being in the moment. Okay, so when in the moment that you're in right now, what is serving you to do right now? And maybe the reason you can't do something, the universe might be trying to set you up into a position so you can break a habit and do something else. So for every door that closes, there's an opportunity for another one to open. I mean, for myself, I actually had to stop running. I used to run 6 days a week. And when my physiotherapist, because I injured myself, said to me, "You're going to have to stop running," my answer was, "Are you kidding? I can't stop running. That's part of what I do." And that purely is the universe telling me to stop. And I say, there's a saying that I use frequently, you know, first the universe, she whispers, but if you don't listen, eventually she screams. And sometimes you being put into a situation where you can't do something is the universe whispered to you for a long time to stop what you were doing, that maybe it wasn't serving you, and now the universe is screaming. And sometimes that's a physical ailment. It'll show up in any of those spaces. So just because you can't do that one thing, look into your life and look into other things that maybe you haven't tried. Maybe it's time to have a new experience, learn something new, expand your space and think outside of it. Be more creative and do something different, learn something new. The whole purpose of life is learning forever. We should learn from the moment we're born until the very last moment that we're breathing. Never stop learning. So don't become too attached and fixed to doing one thing, because the world is changing, the days change, the time of day changes, the sun comes up, the sun goes down. There are lots of changes occurring around us, and letting go of something that you can't do now doesn't mean there aren't lots of other things that you can do that, as Erica said, to find your joy. Bring the joy, and that's not the only way that you could bring joy. So if it means you're not looking at your phone from a certain time of night, learn something new that will bring you joy in that moment, living right there. Because the saying goes that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is the present, and it's a gift, and that's why it's called the present.
Yes.
And that's where you get the enjoyment from. So discover something new. Treat it as an exciting experience.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope that answers your
Thank you.
question.
So thank you everyone for joining me in the India's first panel discussion, and I'm really glad and I'm really honored to have you all on in this panel discussion. So thank you so much, and thank you so much, audience, for this wonderful response. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye,
Namaste.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
For you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.